Hello there and welcome back to Spain. Last time we got the Casa de Contratación, I believe it was, and that gave us some pretty damn sweet bonus to colonization. So with that in mind, we'll simply be continuing our colonization efforts, and we'll most likely be starting colonizing this area here up along the coast, and we'll probably also start doing some messing about with the natives here. So we'll see how that goes. But on another note, we'll also most likely end up in wars with the Portuguese. I don't actually want to share anything with them, so of course warfare it is. Also on that note, I'll most likely now take, and once this war is over, release Guyenne, and we'll be preparing for a war against the French, with the goal of taking back as many of the Guianan provinces as we can, and thus hurt the French a little bit at the very least. I'll also probably try and take Languedoc here to give myself a, well, what should I call it, a connector to these provinces here so I can actually walk to them. And we'll be waiting for the integration of Naples to complete here. But with that in mind, we'll simply, as I said, continue colonization. Most likely create some forces so it's actually possible to colonize up here. But yeah, it should probably be just fine. So we'll just get on with it and see how it turns out. As you can see, the Portuguese doesn't actually have any allies, and that makes them easy pickings. We'll be going for Algarve, Alentejo and Beira in this war, and that is basically to secure ourselves, or basically set ourselves up as, well, uncontested victors or something along those lines. So yeah, as you can see, the Portuguese don't actually have that many troops, they only have those 9,000, so just destroying that army is more than enough to actually win me this war, I think. So I'll just go ahead, get my sieging squads up, and then we will more or less have won this war. I'll also be snatching, I think, the Portuguese colony, or one of them at the very least, that they have down here, this one. So we'll see how that turns out. But for now, I'll have to move some troops there, and they most likely have to walk some part of the way, thanks to the fact that well, the Portuguese does have some ships in the area, and that makes it a little bit scary, a little bit difficult. But as you can see, sieges are basically coming along now, and all that remains is basically to wait. The Portuguese will be pretty crippled after this, so I'm pretty sure I'll have the colonization of the southern area of the map all to myself, and that should basically put me in an even stronger position of power. So it'll be basically, I'll be allowed to do whatever I want from here on in. But as you can see, we have run into some Portuguese ships, actually quite a huge amount of, or big fleet that is, so we'll just have my guys here retreat to shore if it's at all possible. I did lose a bunch of ships there, so yeah, if they actually make a move or come toward these guys, I'll just have them go to shore, so I can just walk over to their colonies. Shouldn't be an issue. I'm a little bit unsure if I'll take the colony, if I'll simply burn it. I might actually burn it just for the time being. There's just a couple more wars, and then we are basically done with all this. So there's no real problem for me to simply walk, burn the colony, and then keep on going. They do have a complete colony here, but I will probably not take it because it seems that it will simply set up new ones, even if I do take it. So no real reason to do so. But yeah, sieging of the Portuguese mainland, and then we'll see how things go. Also, by sieging or taking that much, they shouldn't be able to keep that much of a navy. So we'll see how it turns out. Military attack 11 has been reached, which is matchlock musket, and that gives a combat width increase by 2, along with cavalry fire plus 0.5, interest shock by 0.2, and some new cannons, along with I can now build barracks and weapons manufactories, which is quite good. What I will be doing here, I think, is simply leave the Portuguese alone. There is no real reason for me to screw up their colonization efforts too much, but I will be taking 3 of their provinces. That should hurt. I'll allow them to at least feel it pretty well. But as you can see, I'll give some aggressive expansion with basically everyone, even Burgundy. So it's not that much, but it will be a little bit annoying to have. But I can live with that. And as you can see, I couldn't actually have taken any more provinces even if I wanted to. So during the next war here, we'll most likely go after... try and take these 3, or at least those 2, so I can actually take the capital and thus banish them to potentially New World, and thus get less amount of works or aggressive expansion, that is. So we'll be going for this deal. Should work out just fine. I think I have enough admin points to core most of it, at least. Probably all of it. Yes, I do. So now we'll be waiting for the course, and while we do that, we'll be, as you know, publicly claim on these 3 as well, and that should be enough to keep Portugal at bay, hopefully. So we'll see how that turns out. Should be just fine, really. And although people could potentially get rather pissed at this, France entered into a military coalition against us. Not really that much of a surprise. The real problem here now is if anyone else decides to join the French, because, well, I do not like the prospects of that, and I also need to, I think, improve relations with the Burgundians, because if the French actually declare on me, then I will be needing these guys to actually keep myself safe. But it should be fine, hopefully, at the very least. So we'll see how it turns out. But for now, I'll simply have these guys get back to protecting trade, and we'll be taking most likely dealing with the Portuguese next war. And also, it doesn't actually bother me too much that they do colonize. As you can see, all Iberian culture view Spain as their own nation, so it doesn't actually put me in any kind of problem to actually take Portuguese cultured provinces. So if you think about it that way, I should actually allow Portugal to colonize as much of the southern part as they actually want, because that'll help me in the long run. I won't actually have to colonize them myself, and everyone can then be happy, because as you saw there, Portuguese is an accepted culture, so it's not actually a problem. And, well, that's all you have to worry about on that part. But I'll keep on colonizing, keep on trying to get things going. Apparently, I have 2 colonists that aren't actually doing anything now. Yes, I can set up 2 more colonies, I think. Shouldn't actually be that much of an issue. So we'll be setting up colonies up along the coast here as far as we can, and then we'll see how it all turns out. I will be needing, I think, this army though, to simply keep the natives in check, as it were. And it seems that I don't actually will have too much problems with what should I say, regulars rising up. What I have forgotten, however, is to colonize Bermuda here, and I think I should do that rather quickly. My bad. So once the next colony is done, we'll be starting the colonization of Bermuda. So no worries there. I love those events that gives an extra base tax. Can't really complain about them. So for now, I'll be continuing with the colonization efforts, and we'll see how it all turns out. To boost a little bit more, I actually get Rush of Colonists, which gives me colonial enthusiasm for 5 more years, and thus the growth of my colonies are basically skyrocketing, especially when I have a guy like this, 230 people a year. On average, that means that with all of these bonuses, I can complete a colony about every 4 or 5 years. And if you boost or add that up to the fact that I have 7 colonies running, or I can get basically 7 colonies done in about 7 years. So that is not too bad, and that will most likely help me grow rather quickly. And there we go, Baden is now done with their war with the Burgundians, and just as a precaution, if the French are to declare war, we'll go ahead and release Guyenne, and I'll be using them basically now as I'll be handing over a lot of French land once we actually end up in a war with them, because we will, and we will probably rather soon. So we'll see how this turns out, but for now I'll just keep on colonizing and most likely get into a war with the natives rather soon. Kind of interesting, Portugal has left the military coalition against us and Brittany entered. Doesn't actually make too much sense, but I can live with that, especially since we'll be attacking Portugal pretty much as soon as possible, 5 years time. So that is definitely something that I can live with. But for the time being, we'll be, continuing causing trouble here, and the fact that there are only 6 electives now in the Holy Roman Empire, so I'm a little bit unsure who will actually be a new one, but I'm hoping for someone small again so I can actually try and go ahead and vassalize them. We'll see how it turns out, but for now, I'll once again just keep on colonizing and see if I can get everything before England, Norway, and the French, I think, ends up mixing themselves in. But for now, I'll actually get Bermuda colonized, just because of the fact that it would be annoying if anyone else got it. So hang tight. We got the last expansion idea, which is global trade power plus 20%. Competitive merchants should help out quite a lot. And also now I can have permanent cast a spell against less advanced nations in Asia. So potentially I can also start conquering a little bit over there, start causing some issues or problems, that is, for the opposing, or in this case, the natives. I don't know what to call them, the local populace, we'll go with that. But yeah, I can now start causing some severe problems against basically everyone. I also have Castille now on Mali. So I can of course now go one war, find all of Mali, and then basically use that to my advantage. I'm a little bit unsure if actually there have been any Fezzians. Apparently not. So yeah, I might actually go for taking Tunisia now and feeding them Algiers and Morocco. That is a very tempting thing to do, so we'll have to see there. Nation of Tuscany, of, well, France. I'm not actually ready to fight France, and you know that, so I have no idea why you actually would call me into something like this. And I don't get why a 4-province nation would declare war on something that could bring in France and basically hell to boot. So no, Tuscany, I will not be joining you. Although it was attempting to try and vassalize you, I'll have to live with that. But yes, for the time being, we'll just prepare for another war against Portugal. I believe I have fabricated on 2 of the provinces that I want, so it's just Bragança left, and then we are basically set to try and force them to leave the continent. And hopefully I'll be able to pull that off. But we'll have to wait and see. Colony here done. One up here. So we'll just continue, or basically continue colonizing upwards, and we'll see how it turns out. As you can see, Naples have been integrated, and that should help me out a little bit with well, I guess I'll have some more forces, I'll have some more boats and all that, but basically the only thing that's really helpful here is the amount of land that I have now grown a little bit more. And also I now have complete control over southern Spain, southern Italy, and that should help out quite a bit as well. But other than that, not really much to report. Colonies are coming along nicely, most of them, and we'll also colonize these 2 now, and I'll be hiring another explorer to send up north and basically map the remainder of the northern area. The Portuguese colonies are about halfway done, and we'll be able to declare war in less than 2 years. So I'll most likely be able to simply seize it or destroy it. We'll have to see. So it shouldn't actually be an issue that either. But for now, we'll simply continue colonizing, try to get the colonies up and running. I believe I only have 6 running right now. Yes. So I'm currently setting up one, as I said, over here. So we'll see how that turns out. Well, I do have some negative news here. As you can see, the English have actually started their colonization efforts already. But I should be able to cut them off around this area here, so it's not actually that bad. They will have, well, some area or some parts here where they will be able to colonize on their own. But they'll basically just be getting what's more or less northeast Canada, so it's not really a problem. It could potentially be the Danes too. I haven't actually checked that, and I haven't actually, well, no, this one's like the English. There's an English ship there, which kind of gives it away. But yeah, but as you can see, I have actually started colonizing most of the coast, so it's not really a problem. But even so, it's a little bit annoying that the French actually have started, not the French, the English have started colonizing. The reason why I mentioned the French is because Portugal has decided to enter the coalition against me once again, and that poses some kind of problems for me here. Potentially I can't actually get rid of the Portuguese in a decade or even 20 more years. So what we will be doing here is kissing up to the French, and hopefully I can have them leave, because once they leave, then the road basically is clear. If not, I might actually have to fight the French, and thus I am a little bit unsure if in a coalition war that I'm actually allowed to grow Guyane. But if that's the case, it might actually be worth it. We'll have to wait and consider it. But at the time being, I should probably try and march these guys back to Spain, as it were. So we'll see how it goes. But for now, we'll be trying to basically take as much land here and cut off the English colonies as well as is possible. So we'll see how that goes. Most likely, the Portuguese will be colonizing a couple more places down here, but it should be just fine. As you know, they have accepted cultures. It's not a problem. But for now, I'll try and colonize, and we'll see if I actually end up in trouble with the English or not. As you can see, diplomatic tech 4 has been reached, which gives stock and marketplace. I can now build them. A little bit increase to trade range, not really that important. Next level won't actually give anything that important either. The colonial range won't be increased until level 7, so that's not actually an issue. But as you can see, the English does have, as far as I can see, actually 2 colonies, so it's not really that much of an issue here in terms of what they have, because my colonies have already reached up here. I'll most likely be able to cut them off, I think, around this area. Might even go as far as cut them off here. Take basically everything. They'll be having a couple of colonies up here, but nothing more than that. I'm currently exploring inland, simply because I know where I actually have to cross into or create colonies. Basically, I have to create a colony net here to block them from colonizing inland themselves. And also I am currently sending ships, or a ship here, around the tip here to actually get, or so I can actually map the eastern or western side, so I can actually start colonizing that soon too. But for the time being, this guy will be mapping most of the inland and will be colonizing as it goes. But not really too much to report otherwise. The coalition still stands in Portugal, France and Brittany. England is, I think, tempted to join, but they probably won't. We are still actually threatened by me, so that's fine. Burgundy, we're still best friends. Should probably boost the relation a little bit just to be on the safe side. But for the time being, I'm pretty sure we'll be plotting to go off the French pretty soon. Simply because I want to grow Guyenne, but also because I want the land bridge, I guess we should call it. And thus, the land bridge as such. I'll probably be taking, as you know, the provinces that Guyenne holds, or can hold. As you see, it's actually quite a lot. Unfortunately, they lost the claim they had on, or I don't know if they actually had a claim on England, but or the English province, but that doesn't actually matter. But we can at least take Languedoc and hand it over to them, and that will give me the land bridge as desired. And if I actually conquer any other French provinces, I can just hand it over to them as well, so that's not really a problem. But I think this is it for this episode, not really that eventful. We did have a war against the Portuguese, and they are slowly but surely doing the best here to colonize. So next time we'll probably end up finishing the colonization of this or this northern part here. I'll most likely fill in the gaps here. I might even go for a war against the natives. So we'll see how that goes. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment, praise, criticism, anything you feel like, and I'll see you around next time. Bye.